had an aneurysm that burst. He was coaching his kids' basketball team, and he just collapsed. So he's at UMC, and they did surgery, and he's making great progress. But more prayers, continued prayers would be great. R.J. Portillo.
Sometime today.
Check, check. Okay, very good. All right. Well, sorry, everyone. I guess I've been working at a house church too long. I'm not used to trying to fill out or put on PowerPoints and everything like that. We're used to just sitting in chairs and gathered around. There we go. We're going to have to go double time, which is okay. Luckily, I have lots of pictures for aids to help us. So for those of you who don't remember, my name is Paul Ahrens. It's been a couple years, but I used to work here. I was one of the associate ministers here. And now I live and work in Queretaro, Mexico. And if we could change the slide real quick. Go ahead. Here's the most important member of our team, my daughter Zoe. She's 16 months and she's here, but she's kind of a ball of energy and is running all around. You mind skipping it? Okay, so I get asked the question, where are you again? Most people know we're in Mexico, but where exactly are we in Mexico? So if you could go ahead and move the slide. So you can see that red that's highlighted, that's the state of Querétaro. We're right next to the state of Mexico, and Mexico City is also in that, but it's kind of like Washington, D.C., where it's its own state. So technically we're 2 states away from Mexico City, but really only about 3 hours driving. And if you could just roll through these kind of slowly, but just keep going. These are some pictures, sights, and sounds. Well, I guess not sounds, mostly just sights. Right here you can stop. The 2 on the left, those are kind of the downtown area. And then on the right is our pyramid that we have. Definitely not as big as the pyramids you've probably seen on postcards and things like that. But it's very near to my heart because I'll show you a picture later, but that's where I coach football. And you can keep going. We don't live in these towers, but we live right next to them. Whenever someone asks me where I live, I tell them those towers. And everyone knows where that is because they're kind of all by themselves and they're white with blue glass. So they're kind of cool. You can keep going. This is more the area, just to show you. We don't really live in the jungle, but we don't live in the desert like maybe what you think about with Juarez. We kind of live in a semi-arid area. Go ahead. Okay. I would like to reintroduce our team because my wife Claire and Zoe and I, we don't work alone. We work on a team of 4 families. So our first family is Eric and Neva Bishop. They went through the Adventures in Missions program with me, and that's how we met. And then me and Eric went through the Sunset International Bible Institute together and as a team. If you keep moving. This is Ian and Melanie Napier. They've been married just over 1 year now. Melanie is from Guadalajara, Mexico. And Ian went through AIM also, and then Sunset with me as well. And then we have the Garcia family with Christian and Reagan and their son Grayson. And they're expecting another baby in July. And Christian is Melanie's brother. He's also from Guadalajara. And he also went through AIM with us and then through Sunset with me as well. And so the 4 of us families, we all live and work together to plant a congregation in Juriquilla, Querétaro, Mexico. And Juriquilla is part of Querétaro, but I kind of liken it to Horizon City, where if you're not from El Paso, Horizon City is El Paso, but if you're from El Paso, Horizon City is a little different, right? So let's actually meet some of the members in our congregation. If you can keep going. These are some of the pictures. For those of you who were here last time, you may recognize some of these pictures. I left these pictures in to kind of show where we started. This is where we were at last summer. We were meeting in a park, and we had just a few people. You can see the people gathered. A majority of those people would be our team, and there was maybe 2 or 3 local people who were coming as well. We met in the local park. And if you can keep going, Sergio, who's standing behind me, and Jorge were one of the only 2 people that came. We really only had about 3 people consistently coming at the time. And if you could keep moving. This was, I believe, in February, early February or the end of January. And it looks kind of weird because it's a panoramic shot, but it's all one room. This is where we have church now. It's in the Garcia's home. It got to the point where we were having too many people for the park benches that were there, and then along with the heat and or the rain, it was just getting difficult to continue to meet outdoors. And we found that we thought initially people would be more comfortable meeting in a park because they weren't going into a stranger's home. But it's actually the opposite. People are much more comfortable coming to our houses than they were in the park. So we found that it's actually been helpful for us to meet in our house, well, in the Garcia's house, I should say. And so you can see this living room now is full. Our attendance is much more closer to 20 now, with about 12 people outside of our mission team who come. And we'll keep going, and then I have someone to introduce. And you'll see we're eating, if you can go back one slide real quick, sorry. We're eating every first Monday or Sunday of the month. We have agape meal, which is where we basically it's potluck, but we call it agape meal, and we all eat together. And what we do is we actually have the Lord's Supper leading right up into it to kind of have the idea of this is like time together. It's like what Paul calls in 1 Corinthians love feasts. And so that's what we do at the beginning of every month. And then on the third Sunday of every month, we celebrate all the birthdays and anniversaries in the month. You can go ahead. You can see we sometimes have some kids. We always have my daughter Zoe and Grayson, and they're playing, which is what is nice about being in a house is they can run around and play while we're studying or having worship. But sometimes we have other kids, and they certainly can be helpful with Zoe. And the way we do our worship is we don't so much as do a sermon as we do kind of a lesson. And so we sing songs together, we do the Lord's Supper, and we pray. But then we have more of a class-type lesson instead of a sermon. Since most of the people in our congregation are either new Christians or not quite Christians yet, they were raised in a Catholic background or whatever, it helps for us to have a lot of question and answer time. And so we just this week will be finishing the book of Luke, and it was really interesting and fun to teach people these stories that we kind of take for granted that we've learned since birth maybe, and they're hearing them for the very first time, even if they were raised going to church. So you can go ahead, and then before I continue, back here we have Fernanda. Claire and I brought her here, but we didn't just bring her for show and tell. She's planning on attending the Adventures in Missions program in Lubbock this August, and so she came with us to attend Camp Adventure in Lubbock, which is what she did last week, and so she got to spend time with Ahrens and see kind of what it was like, and she plans on beginning AIM this August. And so her name is Fernanda, and her mom and her brother Itam, they've been coming since about October or November. So now our ministries have changed a little bit. Since the last time I was here, we've begun some new things. But to cover some of the old things that we have, I still coach football. I coach, and not soccer football. I coach American football, flag football. I mostly work with the younger kids, 13 and under. And this is the field that we practice at. There's that pyramid that I was referring to earlier. And so this takes a decent amount of my time coaching, and I also play with some of them. You can go ahead and move. So the one during the day is when I'm just exclusively coaching. That's when it's my 13-year-old's playing. And then the other pictures at night are when I play, but I coach as well. So I'm playing, but I'm coaching them as we play. And we do that. We play a game weekly both, and then I coach practice throughout the week. And you can go ahead and move. One of the things we found to be the most effective for our evangelism has been teaching English and having conversation groups in English. And so this is one of the language exchange groups that I lead. We call it an intercambio because we speak some in Spanish and some in English. And its purpose is to attract some people from the United States or from Europe who don't speak Spanish, who are looking for people to speak Spanish with, but also attract locals who are wanting to practice their English. And so we break into pairs, and for 20 minutes, and we speak in 10 minutes in English, 10 minutes in Spanish, and then we switch partners. And we do that. I do that every Friday night in this restaurant in one of the main plazas downtown. And it has ranged from having about 25 people to 8 people. And so sometimes it's extremely full and busy, and then other times it's more fun because I can focus in and just talk with people and not have to worry about being such a host. But many of our people who come to our congregation have come from groups just like these. If you can go ahead. The other thing that we just began in February, were our English classes. And to kick off our English classes, we had a brunch. An English brunch is what we called it. And so a bunch of people came. I have a group picture that I'll show in just a second. And they came and we all ate brunch. The mission team made all the food. Well, mission team, I should say the ladies. I had literally no hand in cooking, thank goodness. But we spent the time, we met in this kind of event center. And we had a bunch of tables, and people could sit at the table, and there was some get-to-know-you questions that they could ask each other. And then we had group activities, kind of like a bingo, where it's like find someone who broke an arm, find someone who's traveled to 5 countries, things like that. And then we had games where people had to guess idioms. So we would say, what does the phrase "as the crow flies" mean? Because a lot of these students know how to speak English, but they don't always understand idioms like that. They understand what a crow is and what flying is, but they don't understand what we mean by that. So we had a game like that with prizes. And if you can go ahead and move one more, Dee. This was the group that we wound up having. I don't remember the final count, but I believe it was somewhere around 30 people. Some of the people had already left before we were able to take this picture. And so if you can go ahead and move this slide. This is how we kicked off our English classes. So we presented it as this free brunch that people could come and then learn more about our English classes, and that's how we started. And now every Saturday for about an hour and a half, we teach English classes, and these are much more focused English classes, not much general fun. And we use this program that I have here on the right, which is called Let's Start Talking, and they're books that we have. Some of you might be familiar with it, but basically it uses a book of the Bible, and it takes passages, and you read it, and they read it, and then they ask any questions about any words maybe they don't understand, and then we have some questions in the booklet about it. And the purpose of it is not necessarily to be confrontational. It's more to just expose people to the Bible. And worst case scenario, we spend some time speaking and they hopefully learn English. Obviously, our main goal is that they would be reading these passages and start to ask questions, which would lead to faith. An example would be starting with Luke chapter 1, verse 1, and Luke says why he's writing to Theophilus and that he gathered things from witnesses, and that's why he made the book of Luke. And so one of the questions would be, why do you believe that Luke believes what he's writing? So the purpose is to get them to think, well, it's because he gathered witness testimony. And we don't ask any more questions, but it puts the seed of thought in their mind of, do I value witness testimony like Luke did? And it moves on from there. And so we do this every Saturday. We start with a grammar lesson together, and then we break up in partners or groups of 2 and work through the booklet. And one of the major things that Claire is involved with would be this, which is called Chiquitos en Cafecito. And for those who speak Spanish, it's like little children and a little bit of coffee. And it's a mom's group that Claire started with the other mom in our group, Reagan. And basically, it's very simple, but all the moms come to Reagan's house where we have worship. And it's kind of a time to kind of let your kid run free because there's a bunch of moms watching, and just time to spend with the other moms in the community. If you'll remember, last time I was here, I mentioned that Queretaro is a very rich city, and so sometimes it can be difficult to reach rich people because we feel like if we have a lot of money or have all our needs met, we feel like we don't need anything, right? I know sometimes in the United States we can fall into that trap. And so we had to find different ways to reach people, not just with like a dispensa like we have here, or the food pantry that we have here. And so one of the ways we felt would be a good way to reach people is through their children, because people obviously want the best for their children. And many times people want the faith or the environment of Christianity that maybe they didn't have growing up. And so this has been a great way for Claire and Reagan to meet lots of moms in our community. This, unfortunately, we don't have pictures. I had this as a placeholder, but I never got any pictures. But art night is something that Claire, well, some of the ladies, all 4 ladies on our team do, and they have, it's kind of like, in a way, I don't want to minimize it, but it's kind of like a VBS craft where they do art or some sort of craft, anything like that, and that has a study along with it. So it is for adults. I don't want to make it sound like it's something they're going and braiding bracelets or something like that, but it's something that it's for adult women, and they have it on Thursday nights. And that also has been very helpful in meeting people, because it's at a time after work when people come, and a lot of people are just happy to come do art, if nothing else, but they stay for the lesson. And one question that I often get is, what's next? Especially because of all the growth that we had this year. What we believe, what we've been told, the reason for a lot of our growth is because Queretaro is similar to El Paso in that not very many people are actually from Queretaro. Just like not very many people are actually from El Paso. Lots of people come for the army or for the border or whatever else. And Queretaro is that way because it's safe and there's lots of work. So we have many people. There's foreigners like our team, many of our team from different countries, but there's also people from all kinds of different states, like Fernanda's from Tampico, and Sergio's from Guerrero, and lots of people are from Mexico City. And what happens when you leave your family is it can be very lonely, right? Not having your friends and your family or anything that you're familiar with. And so what we try and foster with our congregation in Juriquilla is a place that's a family and that's a community. And we've been told by people who continue to come, the reason they keep coming is because they came just to try and meet people, have friends, and they stayed because they really felt love. And so, and that's what Jesus says, right? You'll know, they will know you're my disciples by your unity. And other places says, they will know we are Christians by our love, right? That's what we sing. And so that's our purpose, and our goal is to continue to foster a community that shows love. Obviously, we teach the Bible, we teach Jesus, but we're not a community that puts down other people or puts down other congregations or talks bad about them. And that has been our main goal. Because of that, we have, like I said, grown kind of quick, and maybe you could see from that picture, things are getting a little tight. So people ask, what plans do we have for 2023? Here was our initial plan. I know it's kind of small, or maybe very small, but for our year one, our year one was really while we were still in the United States, but in established roots, you'll see that it's like learn Spanish and make a routine and make connections. And then in year 2 was when we were supposed to launch our first worship service and begin specific ministries. Well, we were in this sprout stage about 2 months into our time in Queretaro. It's moved much faster than we anticipated. We had our first worship service in November of 21, and we got there in August of 21. So things moved much faster than we anticipated, and that's how God works. Sometimes it's much, much faster than you think and much, much slower than you think, and either way, it's His timing. We've been very clear with the congregation there that we will only get a building when they are able to pay for it, because they can't rely on us paying for it, because if and when we leave, they will lose it. So we're just going to have to keep finding spaces, finding different ways to maybe borrow places or other houses or whatever until we can afford that. We just recently in February had our very first offering. Well, you guys understand money can be kind of a touchy subject, even more so in a culture predominantly dominated by Catholicism, where the offering many times is abused as a way to pay for your sins, or money is mismanaged. And that's something that many Mexicans fear in Mexico, is money is mismanaged with corruption. The government doesn't use money like they should. And so we had to be very careful and very transparent about what the offering was, what we were going to be using it for, and things like that. So we had our very first offering, and we used this offering. One of the things we used the offering for was to help Fernanda come here for her camp adventure. And we use it every month for a food distribution that we do. Because even though Querétaro is a very rich city, there, of course, are still those who have needs. And so the church, together with our offering, we buy all the supplies for these bags, and we take them downtown and hand them out. And so our goals for this year is, or truth be told, we're not really sure. We were not expecting to grow that fast, and we have no idea what God has in store for 2023. If we grow like that again, we will have to move and find a new place to worship. But maybe God wants us just to work with these people who we have now and focus on them. Whatever it may be, that's our plan for 2023. We have begun this intentional training of leaders that you can see in Bloom. We are very fortunate because so many people are from different places. We actually have multiple people from a church in Mexico City that we know very well. Actually, the missionaries are Christian and Melanie's parents. And some of the Christians from there have moved to Querétaro for different reasons. We actually have 4 people, 3 men and 1 woman, move from Mexico City. So we have the benefit of having some already mature Christians in our congregation. Those would be Roberto and Pedro and Irene and Alex. And so we're trying to work with them, especially Roberto and Alex, to become leaders. Because as the leaders here know, it can take many, many years to develop leaders, people to be deacons or elders. And this leadership's going to need to be in place whenever we're ready to leave. But we understand we're many years away from that. And so for 2023, the goal is to follow God wherever He takes us. And whatever growth or decline or whatever we have, those are our goals for 2023. I know we have about 3 minutes till we need to end, but I want to just give any time for questions. John has a mic, and then I'd be happy to repeat them if necessary. 1 or 2 questions? Yes.
What makes your community, your city, safe as compared to what we hear about the Mexico City and warning of kids going on spring break and all that? Why is it safe?
Well, one of the reasons Querétaro is safe is just its location geographically. We're not close to the coast. We're close to Mexico City, but not close enough. And so just simply we have no major rivers. We're not close to any borders. So that reason alone helps a lot. I've been told various other reasons. I'm not sure how true they are. I've been told that some of the heads of the cartels live in Queretaro, and so there's amnesty. It's a safe place. It's kind of agreed upon. I don't know if that's true or not. What I understand and what I see the most is we're just not a strategic location to run drugs or anything like that. We just have your normal big city, small time crime, kids in gangs, car thieves, things like that. Anything else?
And meeting people through these different events. I was curious, here in the U.S. sometimes talking about religion can be kind of a taboo subject. Awkwardness, can kind of be a result sometimes of that. Is that your experience where you're living and preaching? Or is there more of an openness to that kind of thing?
People are pretty open. Many people, since Catholicism is so big, it's not strange to meet Christians. It's not like a completely foreign concept to them. And when they understand that, I use the word pastor, whenever they hear that I'm a pastor or a minister, that's not super strange to them, and they're very open. Sometimes these English nights lead to very deep conversations. I've had people, as soon as they find out I am a minister, they have questions about the Bible, like the Holy Spirit. I've talked about prayer with people. I've talked about baptism. I've talked about homosexuality, all kinds of different things. Other times they just say, oh, that's cool, and what are your hobbies? So it depends on the person. I've only met maybe a couple hostile, and by hostile I mean they like to tease or whatever else, but very, very few. I can really only think of one that I've met. I would say people are very, very open. And I think a lot of that has to do with, because so many people are not from Querétaro, everyone's kind of a stranger. And so they're very understanding of my position as a foreigner, and because they too are a foreigner, even if they're from a different state of Mexico. Anyone else? One last question? Okay, no problem. Oh, go ahead.
You talked about your plan kind of being faster and kind of a faster, progress. Has that resulted in you guys having to like skip steps as far as like learning Spanish and things like that? Do you feel like the faster paced progress in your plan has made it more challenging for you not being able to cover all those like foundational type of things on the front end? Mm-hmm.
We were fortunate that 4 of us already spoke Spanish, so only half of us needed to learn Spanish. Two of us, Christian and Melanie, are native speakers from Guadalajara, so that was very easy for them. And then I've been speaking Spanish for about 6 years, and that was part of my position here, was working with Lonnie with the Spanish ministry. And so really all that meant, it was actually very fortunate for us, because it meant that we weren't just kind of waiting for everyone else. We had lots to do. We're very, very busy. But Claire just finished her last class right before we came. And if you speak Spanish, try speaking Spanish with her. If you hear her talking with Fernanda, I think you'll be very impressed and see how far she's come. Really, everyone on the team at this point is at least a conversational place. All the men on our team speak well and do teach or pray or whatever else. And so I just want to say thank you very much. Thank you for your patience. I'm very sorry about the technical difficulties ahead of time, but that's part of ministry, right? You never know what's going to happen. But thank you all for your time, your patience, and your attention.